Hello and welcome to this video tutorial for problems 1 and 2. Through these problems, 1 through 5, you'll explore a little bit of a mathematical topic called analysis with your students. But don't worry, no prior math knowledge will be required. The first few questions give you an opportunity to connect with your students, and potentially students may reveal some sensitive information or some information which is a vulnerability. Uh, For example, a student could recall or reveal that they are anxious when they are alone with a caregiver. There could be many causes and many interpretations of this, so you'll want to ask students to elaborate or say like, could you give me an example? And they may not feel comfortable telling you this in front of their classmates. You could offer to have them talk to you in private or talk to a teacher in private. Maybe they perceive one of the other teachers as a grown-up or something that they can confide in. And so you want to give them the opportunity to do that just in case this sort of thing comes up, because you could be the first grown-up able to help a child in a bad situation, or you may have the opportunity to be a friend when one is needed. If a student talks about an event, it's important to not assume how the event makes the student feel. For example, if a student's bike was stolen, you can ask them how this makes them feel. They may say it makes them sad, or they may say it makes them happy because now the old bike was too small, but their church, since their bike was stolen, has offered to buy them a new bike which will actually fit them. So this could actually be a good event in their lives. Whenever a student shares how they feel about an event or a vulnerable moment, be sure to validate their feelings. In the bike example, maybe you could say, yeah, getting a new bike would make me feel pretty happy too, as an example. Um, you could also talk about college life. For example, you could talk about, I get really anxious around final exam time, but sometimes UCI invites therapy dogs to campus, and we get to pet the dogs, and that helps us relieve some anxiety and feel less anxious about taking these exams. So that'd be a valuable opportunity to talk to students about college. I wanted to give kind of like a basic primer on some simple counseling tips, because you may find yourself in tricky situations, and I figured I should probably point out that you should always ask students about how things make them feel if they reveal a potentially vulnerable moment, and ask them and always validate their feelings when they share how they feel about these things. Okay, that's it for the uh, basic counseling advice. Let's talk about these problems. Okay, so for problems 1 and 2, you want to give some motivation for the whole for all these problems, and you might pretend that you and the students are taking on the role of a medical researcher or a pharmaceutical clinician or some other professional scientist whose job it is to analyze data and synthesize information and conclusions. You'll want to guide the students through the questions and encourage critical thinking. For example, which motivations do these companies have? You might want to encourage the students to think about like, okay, well, why would a company want to produce a drug? Um, Sometimes companies will do that because maybe one of the founders had a family member who was affected by this disorder, and they want to pool their resources together in a big organization and find a cure. Maybe they're just trying to make money. You never know. This is an opportunity for students to think critically about these sorts of things that they might see in the news. Let's see. Yes, this is an opportunity for students to think about how to represent quantities in a table and classify that data. So if we look at problem 2, they get to talk about how tired they feel after blank number of minutes of jogging. And so they get to think about like maybe if they jog for like 0 minutes, they're not tired, but as soon as they jog for like 5 minutes and they're a little tired, and then 10 minutes they're tired, and maybe 25 minutes they're very tired, and after an hour they're exhausted. Um, and this is a good social exercise for them as well, because then they can talk to other students and compare the data and contrast. Okay, that's it for this video. It's a really short one. In the next videos, we'll explore problems 3 through 5. Until then, or I should say, hasta luego.